Okay, for this last section, you want to graph quadratics. To graph a quadratic, it is a parabola. So it's either going to look like a right side up U or an upside down U. Oh, whoops. So this we have either f of x, which is the same as y, function notation, y notation doesn't matter. 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 is your graph that you want to do. So you can plot points and just graph if you want, that's fine, but there's actually, you can use formulas to come up with what's called the vertex and everything. So if you write down your A, which is 2, my B, which is 3, and my C, which is negative 2. So if your A is greater than 0, it is going to open up and be right side up U for a parabola. And if A is less than 0, it's going to open down and be an upside down parabola. So my A is 2, which is greater than 0, so I know this one is going to open up. You can calculate the axis of symmetry because for parabolas, that's not very much in the middle, but that's okay. If you do the vertical line down through the what's called the vertex, or the minimum on that one, the maximum on this one, but through the vertex and fold it, then the left side should match the right side. So if you have one side, you know you have to have the other side because they have to match. So if you want to find the axis of symmetry, you would have, it is the same as saying x is equal to negative b over 2a. It's that vertical line. So in this case, we would have negative 3 over 2 times 2. So we would have negative 3 over 4 would be our axis of symmetry. You don't always have to find that though, but that's the vertical line as to where if you folded it over that vertical line, the left side and right side should match. The one that is helpful is the vertex. You find the vertex. Your vertex is your xy point where x is negative b over 2a and y is f of that. So that's why you might use that notation. Basically, x is negative b over 2a. Your y value is if you plug in that x, what is it? So that's all that is. So our x is, I just did it, negative 3/4, which means our y, which is f of negative 3/4. So basically plug in that x and see what you get. It's going to be 2 times negative 3/4 squared plus 3 times negative 3/4 minus 2. If you do that, you should get negative 25/8. And I wrote that as a decimal because doing it as a fraction, it's sometimes hard to tell where it would be on a graph. So it'd be negative 0.75 and then negative 3.125 would be your vertex. Something else that's helpful to know is your x and y intercept. For graphs, anytime you graph, x and y intercept's helpful. So same like we were doing with lines, to get your x-intercept, you plug in a y is 0. And to get your y-intercept, you plug in an x is 0. In this case, the y-intercept's the easier one, because if you plug in a 0 for x, this is gone, you're only left with negative 2. So y is negative 2, or the 0.0 negative 2. It's a little bit harder on this one because in that case you have to set it equal to 0 basically. You got 0 equals, or you can do it on the left if you want. And then you have to solve that quadratic. So if it'll factor, great. If it doesn't, you can use completing the square or quadratic formula. This one does factor. It factors into 2x minus 1 times x plus 2. So we would have x is a half. Or x is negative 2. So there's your x and y intercept, or your two x-intercepts, and the y-intercepts over here. So we would have 1/2 0 and negative 2 0. So personally, when I do parabolas, I generally find these find my x-intercept, find my y-intercept, and my vertex, and then graph. Because the axis of symmetry, it doesn't matter so much. You can always check too when you do that in graph. Make sure if A is positive, but greater than 0, it opens up, and if it's negative, it's opening down. So you can always double check that. And again, on these, the graphs don't have to be perfect. So you've got your vertex is negative 0.75, so it's about here, down to negative 3.125. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Roughly right there-ish. I might scoot it over a little bit more, but that's okay. Y-intercept's negative 2, so 1, 2's here. X-intercept's a half. There's 1, there's a half, and negative 2. And then you draw what's supposed to look like a parabola, but mine usually turns into V's or something. But it's supposed to look like a parabola, like a U. And there's your graph, and you can label these points if to make it more helpful, but these don't have to be perfect, just a rough sketch. Generally, I look at what you wrote down, and then as long as your graph looks something similar to mine, it's fine.